Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy, your weekly video game news podcast, broadcasting live Fridays 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today is Friday, September 28th. I'm your host, Lex, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Booge.
And we've got so many stories to talk about, and by that I mean we have a lot of tiny stories to talk about. So many teeny little nuggets.
Little nugs.
Little nugs. This is the Nug episode. Ooh, get that sauce, maybe some honey mustard sauce. Get it ready for those nugs.
It's gonna be dank.
So we're gonna start off with two stories that are sort of follow-ups to stuff that we've done in past weeks. One of them has to do with Nintendo Switch cloud saves, and the other one has to do with Telltale Games closing. After that, we're gonna be talking about PSX. What's up with PSX? Bad things. Then we're gonna be talking about Microsoft announcements. After that, we're going to be talking about PS4 Crossplay, a little light on the horizon, followed by Fallout Crossplay, less light on the horizon. Then we're going to talk about Total War Rome 2. Why are we talking about a 5-year-old game, you ask? Well, because the internet is stupid. Then we're going to end the show with my favorite story of this week or any other week. Bowsette. I'm just so happy about it.
I can tell.
So, let's jump into it. Nintendo Switch. What have they done?
What have they done?
Nintendo Switch, we talked about Nintendo Switch's online service and cloud saves, and it looked like, after initial reporting, that they were going to delete your cloud saves like as soon as your account ended. Just done. You lose it.
You're done.
But we found out they gave more details to that recently, and it's good. It's good. Nintendo did something right. It's the glimmer of hope in their horrible excuse for an online platform.
Nintendo? What?
So
they cannot succeed.
What? Let's see, we have Nintendo, however, added a clarification to its FAQ stating that as long as users resubscribe within 6 months, their save data cloud files will be restored. The full policy is as follows. If a Nintendo Switch Online membership expires, users won't be able to access their save data cloud backups. However,
what the fuck? Why would you name it like that?
Yeah, it's super annoying. However, Nintendo will allow users who resubscribe within 180 days to access. I guess it does say access.
That says access.
Why do I think that says assess?
just a brain fart.
Yep. To access. Their it just looks like assess to me.
Yeah.
Access their previous save data cloud backups, classic games in the NES, Nintendo Switch Online collection, and the save data for those games will not be removed unless the user chooses to do so manually. These items are stored locally on the Nintendo Switch system, but cannot be accessed without an active Nintendo Switch Online membership. So, good. That's
pretty standard.
Yeah, that's the policy that like Sony has for their PlayStation Online.
Yeah, I was trying to find what the time frames are for Xbox and PlayStation, but I couldn't find exactly how long they keep stuff for. But I imagine something similar.
Yeah, I remember when we were initially doing the reporting about it, reading some article that mentioned that either PlayStation or Xbox, but I can't remember which, did the 6-month thing.
Right.
So cool. They're just doing what is through people yelling at them. They have moved all the way up to doing the baseline of what is acceptable.
Yep, good old baseline Nintendo. Just all we can hope for in the online space. I wonder, so I'm not a scientist, Lex. I don't know these things, but I imagine that they get rid of your saves because I imagine that they get rid of your modern game saves because they maybe take up more space than the NES saves do.
Probably, yeah. I would bet money on that. They definitely take up more space.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, overall, saves once again, I'm not a scientist, but it seems like saves don't take up a lot of space in modern games, anyways.
No, not
Like,
really. They never save files have never taken up a lot of space in games. Period. It's just
mhm.
that they. It seemed like maybe this was their policy from the beginning, but they just didn't make it clear originally. I don't exactly know,
Yeah,
but
Nintendo's not the best at communicating
yeah.
sometimes.
So that's a possibility. But it seems if it isn't that way, if it is that they were going to delete it immediately, it's probably because they wanted to keep as much space on their end open as they could so that they wouldn't get overloaded, which kind of makes sense because Nintendo's terrible at doing online stuff. So,
Yeah,
like, what are the chances that their servers for all their cloud space will get overstuffed?
yeah,
Seems
yeah.
likely. Seems like it could totally happen.
Their server farms are run on Steam power or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's yeah, good, I guess, for Steam users, not Steam users, Switch users. That they'll be getting the bog standard experience that everyone else gets to enjoy already.
Right.
Now they just have to go through horrible friend codes and the crazy communication systems that they have for Splatoon. And yeah, but you get to play those NES games though that are ROMs.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Those ROMs
those ROMs.
you could get very easily on any modern computer or phone.
Yep.
So
Or yeah, you could run it on I don't know, a toaster.
probably a potato clock. Bet you
A
can run
potato
some
clock.
NES ROMs on that potato clock.
Hey, that's my favorite way to play Balloon Fight.
Mm-hmm.
On the
Duck
potato
Hunter.
clock.
Ooh. So, so let's talk about Telltale Games. Last
Shall
week,
we?
yeah, last week we talked about how Telltale Games closed. Not, I wouldn't even say unexpectedly. Unexpectedly, it was unexpectedly how quickly it happened, but we kind of all
Suddenly.
knew, yeah, that we knew they were going downhill.
Yeah.
But it turns out you can't just fire your entire workforce and tell them they have 30 minutes to leave the building because
Yep.
that goes against labor laws in the United States. Shocking.
Specifically California.
Well, it's actually that. So there's this thing called the Warren Law or the Warren Laws, and there's a what is the actual thing for it? The Federal Worker Adjustment and Retaining Notification Act of 1988. And this is, so it's federal, so it's across the U.S., but California has more laws that are more beneficial to workers. They have like additions to the Warren Act that they passed in 2003. And these
Because they're a bunch of libs.
bunch of dang libs. So their additions basically say that, or I should say, the Warren Act maybe originally says that let's see, stipulates that most businesses with at least 100 full-time workers must notify employees 60 days in advance of any plant closings or mass layoffs. The act defines a mass layoff as a reduction of 50 or more employees within a 30-day period. Well, Telltale Games certainly qualifies for that.
Yes.
Or any layoff of 500 or more. So California's state level version of the Warren Act, which was put into effect in 2003, lowers the company size threshold to 75 full-time or part-time workers and applies to any reduction of at least 50. So this is being brought forward in as a class action lawsuit in California by ex-employees, basically saying, hey, you need to like give us severance pay. You need to give us health benefits. Right now, the laid off individuals are reportedly receiving health benefits only until the end of the month.
Yay.
I don't know if you knew, but this happened last week before we aired, which was a week before the end of the month.
Right.
So they had health care for a whole week.
Good. Wow. How gracious of Telltale.
Thank you, Telltale. So there's what's going to be really interesting about this case if and when it goes to court, I kind of assume it will.
Yeah.
Is that we're going to learn as the public how much Telltale knew and how early they knew it.
Yeah.
And it's going to make them look real bad.
Yeah, because I can tell you, I mean, without it going to trial, I can tell you that they knew early, and they knew it all.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way, and this is totally. I mean, the more I thought about this whole Telltale thing, it was just like the more you can only really blame the high end executive part of the company for this because companies know this shit for long stretches of time out. You know, they don't like production companies like this don't make schedules that they don't think they can hit and that they don't think that they can fund. So they knew at the highest echelons of Telltale, they probably knew for a long time this was going to happen, and they just didn't tell anybody. You know, for and that's I don't know, that's just incredibly bad management. There is an update to this story down below that talks about how Telltale may be able to fight the lawsuit on the basis of the Federal WARN Act, but it will likely have a tougher time defending its actions according to the California version of the law. So the exemptions, the federal law offers some exemptions for businesses, situations in which a company would be exempt from the 60-day advance notice provision. The exemptions include business circumstances that were not foreseeable, not reasonably foreseeable. Variety reports Monday that Telltale was working to secure a round of financing, but the last possible backer, which may have been Lionsgate, multiple sources told Variety, pulled out, forcing the studio to initiate shutdown plans and lay off most of the team. But Game Daily talked to a attorney, Richard Haig, I'm guessing that's how you say his name, and he was basically saying that probably won't work because California did not take the pertinent exemption into their laws. So since Telltale is a Californian company, or was a Californian company, probably won't hold in court. So they'll probably get grilled for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I also just think it'll be really funny to see Telltale's lawyer try to argue that it was not foreseeable.
Right. Yeah.
But and to be clear, what the ex-employees are looking for out of Telltale is back pay for the amount that they should have had notice before they were fired. So they should have had 60 days notice, so they're looking for 60 days back pay for all of those employees. Which
is totally reasonable.
Yeah, no, it's more than reasonable. It's totally, like, it's a lot of money just because it's like 200 people, but it's not unreasonable at all to ask, and not really even, I'm surprised they weren't trying to ask for more, trying to sort of twist that knife in a little bit because of maybe angers they had with the company.
Sure.
But the thing is, even though it seems like there's a very good chance they're going to win this suit, is there any money to give them?
Right.
Probably
yeah, that's
not.
What I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, have they not claimed bankruptcy already?
Mm-hmm.
In which case, once again, I'm not a scientist or a lawyer, Lex. Don't know if you knew that. I'm a scientist lawyer.
Why do I have you on the show if you're not either of those things?
I know. I'm sorry. I've been a lie the whole time. But yeah, if they've claimed bankruptcy, I mean, there's protections for companies that have bankruptcy, including like not having to pay out certain amounts of money and stuff like that. So we'll see. I think at the end of the day, the workers of Telltale are going to get screwed in the long run. Hopefully, working at Telltale is a good enough part of your resume that you'll get picked up by other companies quickly. But at the end of the day, they'll be the ones to suffer for this the most.
It's also interesting in that report you mentioned that they were trying to secure funding from Lionsgate, because when I read that, I was just like, oh, why would they need to secure funding from a film company? Probably because they were trying to get that film company they were trying to convince that film company to let them make an adaptation of a movie or a TV show that they
absolutely.
own. So that means they were going to solve their financial woes by adding more projects to their docket.
Yeah, more IP onto the mountain of IP that they had for the games that they weren't finishing.
Yeah. So that wasn't even going to work in the long term. That was just going to be a quick fix anyway. So obviously, and that reporting obviously tells us that this was very foreseeable. They knew that they had no money.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited to, in the years to come, because we've had some exposés on how toxic the management is from a creative standpoint. I think there was one from The Verge that was explicitly about that, but I'm excited now in the next year or two whenever what's his name from Kotaku gets around to it,
Schreier.
or Yeah, Schreier. Whenever Jason Schreier gets around to pulling out all the weeds, that we find out the financial toxic mismanagement that went down at that company, because it must have been going on for a long time. Like, they started small, and then all of a sudden they exploded and ran with it, and probably burnt themselves out because they didn't know how to control or manage a bigger company, and it just fucking crashed and burned. And yeah, crazy tale. Oof. To be told at Telltale.
So, someone should make a Telltale style game about Telltale.
About Telltale? Yeah. Workers will remember this.
Yikes. So, let's talk about PSX.
And how it's not happening.
It's not happening.
So this is from IGN. So of course I need to refresh my webpage because it's IGN and they just want to play videos all day. Yep. They're not a site about video games anymore. They're just a site about annoying video players. Anyways, PSX 2018 is not happening. PlayStation executive confirms. PlayStation's Worldwide Studios chairman Sean Layden has confirmed Sony will not be holding a PlayStation Experience event in 2018. Layden made the announcement on the PlayStation blogcast saying, quote, "For 2018, I know this is going to be a disappointment to some people, but we decided to not hold a PlayStation Experience this year. We won't have it in the States this year," he continued. The reasons behind that we really don't want. We have a lot of progress that we're making on our games. Now that we have Spider-Man out the door, we're looking down into 2019 games like Dreams and Days Gone. I guess Dreams is a 2019 game now. It's only been 6 to 8 to 10 years since they announced that.
I always forget about Dreams and just assume that it already came out.
Nope. Now it is a program that makes interstitials for their E3 shows.
Oh, no.
Quote, also from Layden, but we wouldn't have enough to bring people all together in some location, North America, to have that event. We don't want to set expectations really high and then not deliver on that. It was a hard decision, but we have determined that this year we will not hold PlayStation Experience. So that's unfortunate. I know some people really like the PlayStation Experience, and it also shows, I think, Sony's slipping a little bit with its public showings. E3 this past summer, they showed off great games, but it was a clusterfuck of a presentation. And I think now, I do believe, a lot of it is just they don't have anything to show. They don't want to have an event if they don't have anything to show, and they don't have really anything to show at this time. So, yeah.
That's
too
what
bad,
happens when you're top dog. You get complacent. You get lazy.
You do. And PlayStation has done this before, right?
Yep.
Back when they were top dog in PlayStation 2 era, and then PS3 came out, and like, you'll get a second job to buy our fucking $900 machine, or however much it was, I don't remember. But
our giant, extremely expensive Blu-ray player.
Yes, exactly. Our big George Foreman grill that also plays Blu-rays. Sony has a history of getting really prideful and really, arrogant, and then crashing and burning for a whole generation. And I mean, so this plays in. I think it's so funny. We've talked about like the hubris of these big companies and how they just like history repeats itself over and over again. And I think we're seeing the ramp up to that again. And I can't believe it.
Yep.
Because it's like you never fucking learn from your mistakes. Like you never fucking learn from your mistakes, because I think we have the exact opposite. We're at the apex because the next story is about how Microsoft is going to have a show, and they've been really humble and great, and gamer focus and all this shit. And it's just like, here we go again.
Yep.
Like, it's just going to happen again.
We do have a story later about Sony buckling to pressure, but after them being obstinate for like how long? Months at least.
Forever, yeah. Ever since the PS4 came out. So PlayStation Experience. I mean, to be honest, there's only been a couple years where something real big happened at PlayStation Experience. I think they mentioned here that PSX 2016 saw the announcement of The Last of Us Part 2 and Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. But but after that, I don't really think much is. PSX has kind of just been like a little fan event that didn't really announce big things anymore.
Yeah.
So it's maybe they're just, they figure they have enough. And putting these things on costs so much money. Like going to E3 and Gamescom and PAX and all these things cost these companies a lot of fucking cash. And so doing another one is just more money. to put on the table if you're not really gonna get much traction.
I guess. But let's talk about Microsoft.
Microsoft, on the other hand, hold on. Oh, IGN's freezing my browser. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I love
Classic
IGN so much. Yeah. Over to GameSpot, which is not as bad as IGN when it comes to eating up browser memory. Microsoft announces big X018 Xbox event this November. And so, Microsoft is hosting a big Xbox event later this fall. During the latest episode of Inside Xbox, the company announced a new fan event dubbed X018, a, quote, global celebration of all things Xbox, scheduled to take place in Mexico City on November 10th to the 11th. Microsoft has announced that hasn't announced many details about what fans can expect from X018 yet, but what the publisher said, it will feature, quote, the largest live Inside Xbox episode ever. The event will be broadcast online and will provide news, first looks, and surprises although the publisher didn't delve into any specifics to what those could be. If you go to the event, you'll be able to follow along. If you can't go to the event, you'll be able to follow along and enter live via the company's Mixer streaming service. God damn it, Xbox. Just give it up. Give up Mixer. No one cares. Yeah, so it sounds like they're basically going to be pulling off their own little PSX type thing, but with Xbox, with a horrible name. X018 is such an Xboxy name.
I know, it's awful.
Yeah, they're really not good at this. But yeah, so I think we can see the tilting of the scales. Maybe I'm guessing that because we saw Microsoft at E3 announce a lot of stuff, and one of the big things that they announced is that they're acquiring a lot of studios to be their, second party or first party studios. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those studios had games that have already been in the works and they're ready to announce for their platform. And that might be what they're going to do a little bit of here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you have, in contrast to PlayStation or Sony, I suppose, as you had said, these cost a lot of money to put on, but you have Sony who have a lot of money. I mean, we were talking about the sales figures for Spider-Man and how it just made buckets and buckets of cash, and yet they're like, nah, we don't need to do this. Whereas Microsoft is like, maybe we'll put out... Did you play Sea of Thieves? Maybe we'll put out Crackdown at some point. I don't know.
Maybe.
But here, we're going to do this big, expensive event because we really need more notoriety.
Yes, yeah. Crackdown and Dreams are just sitting in the back row drinking. They're just like, we're never coming out, man. Forget about us, man. Yeah, it definitely is Microsoft... in the past couple of years, Microsoft's really turned the ship around and has been pushing more and more in a positive manner, I guess, in a consumer-friendly manner. And I'm sure that they just want to get more faces on their stuff, even if not all of it works. Like Sea of Thieves, it was a disappointment at launch, but they keep plugging away at it and adding stuff, so they're doubling down on a lot of their stuff, and I think that they're committing to a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I think this is just a continuation of that.
All right, well, hey, get excited for that.
Get excited if you live near Mexico City, I guess.
Yeah, that's nice. That'd be
interesting choice.
What a nice climate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it depends. When is it? November? Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Probably still be hot.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
So, PlayStation. Back to PlayStation. PlayStation, finally, they're going to allow crossplay. PS4 crossplay confirmed for Fortnite.
Yes.
Whoa.
Not with PC, though.
Not, well,
wait,
let's
is
not.
it the last week? Actually, no, I can't remember. I thought it was just for Xbox and Switch, but I could be wrong.
No, I actually think it might be for everything. But
is it for everything?
This is this is from September 28th from GameSpot, and Sony has announced that crossplay between PS4 and other platforms is coming to Fortnite. In a statement posted on the PlayStation blog, Sony Interactive Entertainment said it has identified a path towards supporting cross-platform features for select third-party content. Great.
Sick.
So yeah, this is PS4, Xbox One, PC, Switch, Mac, Android, and iOS. Because I always forget that Fortnite has mobile versions.
Oh yeah. They're probably the best probably the ones that make the most money.
So they say, we recognize that PS4 players have been eagerly awaiting an update, and we appreciate the community's continued patience as we have navigated through this issue to find a solution.
The solution was we turned it on.
Yes, we see the beta as an opportunity to conduct thorough testing that ensures cross-platform play is best on PlayStation. That's one of their gosh darn talking points.
They always say that.
Everything is best on a PlayStation.
Experience best on PlayStation 4.
Ugh. While being mindful about the user experience from both a technical and social perspective. So basically they're selling this as an update that they're making for Fortnite that you can download, and then you can have crossplay. And it's really annoying because they're selling it like, look at this special feature we made just for you. And I'm like, no, you guys, this is the baseline. You were supposed to start by giving us that you refused to until you got so much flack that you finally decided to change your tune. But don't like, don't give me the basic, don't give me like, oh god, now I can't even think of a good analogy. Don't give me like an overdone steak and tell me it's filet mignon, all right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're just coming off as like, we really did some good work here for you guys. Some real good work for you. It's just like, no, you just had to flip a switch.
Yeah.
That's all you needed to do. You just didn't want to do it because you wanted more money. Because you liked more money.
And we know all that you had to do is flip a switch because multiple game companies and developers have told the public that that's all you need to do. And those people know what they're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Famously, it was Psyonix who make Rocket League, where like came out very publicly about it, and they're like, yeah, we can, on our side it's incredibly easy, and from what we know it's incredibly easy on their side. They just refuse to do it. And yeah, in all game, like this is a thing that is not every single game company that has an online game wants cross-platform play. Like there's no reason why they would ever want to stay on one platform. They want their games played by as many people as possible in as many ways as possible. So yeah, this is just Sony finally getting beaten down until they said fine and changed it. I think, some more kind of corporate talk in the next paragraph. Quote, for 24 years, we have strived to still deliver the best gaming experience to our fans by providing a uniquely PlayStation perspective, Sony's statement continues. Today, the communities around some games have evolved to the point where cross-platform play, cross-platform experiences add significant value to the players. In recognition of this, we have completed a thorough analysis of the business mechanics required to ensure that the PlayStation experience for our users remains intact today and in the future as we look to open up the platforms. It also notes that this represents a major policy change, no shit. And Sony has also said it, quote, it is now in the planning process across the organization to support this change. So, a good thing, it is ultimately a good thing. Just the message that they're portraying sucks. And I mean, it's a slippery slope of the good kind, because it took something like Fortnite, the biggest game in the world, to get them to change, and now you know that there's going to be all these other games that come up to them and be like, hey, well, what about us? Can we get in that? Can we get on that? Like, can you make it open for us? And then eventually they'll just be pressured to change it for everything, I think. Which is ultimately a good thing. It's just that they're stubborn because they're on top and they're making a lot of money, and they don't want to change things. And it is, I mean, to be honest, PlayStation's a huge company. Sony is a huge company. PlayStation is a huge division of that company, and it takes a long time to turn a big ship like that around and make these kind of policy changes. But it just took, the biggest game in the world to beating him over the head to get him to change it.
Yeah. Although in other crossplay news, we have Fallout 76, an online multiplayer game. Guess what it's not going to support? Crossplay. So this is a story from PC Gamer from the 26th, entitled Fallout 76 will not support crossplay. Sony opened the door to Fortnite crossplay today, but Bethesda said it's not happening for the new Fallout, which is weird because Bethesda is usually so good about stuff like this.
They are, but they particularly have a bad history with PlayStation. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some of that going in there.
So Bethesda executive producer Todd Howard said earlier in the summer that the studio would love to have cross-platform play in Fallout 76, but Sony isn't being as helpful as we want them to be. So, like we were talking about earlier, it's game devs have been saying stuff like that forever.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had a tweet from Pete Hines saying, "Folks, chill. I work with a lot of devs and games for whom this is important going forward. Fallout 76 does not support crossplay for a number of reasons. I have no idea if it ever will, but I assure you that it is not on our radar right now as we focus on beta and launch." So the way that's written, it's like, oh, it's
weird.
It's not that Sony's stopping us, it's that we're just not designing it for that because we just don't want to.
Right. In Pete Hines' signature confrontational manner of writing. Yeah, this is strange. I guess, I don't know. It makes me wonder what are the reasons that it can't be crossplay, if that is the truth,
And again,
is it because your net code sucks, because you can't design these things, because you don't know what you're doing.
Throw that shade on Bethesda and all their stupid glitches that they should be able to avoid by now, but don't.
See, however good or bad Fallout 76 is, if there's one company that I wouldn't trust with fragile netcode in a game that's already fucking broken as shit, it's Bethesda.
Yeah,
I do not expect that netcode to work, maybe ever.
That is a reasonable concern. But what's important to note about this, because I guess the way we've been talking about it, it kind of seems like, oh, they want to just have crossplay with PlayStation, and they're not. But no, they're not planning to have crossplay with anything. So this is going to be on Xbox and PC as well, and there's going to be no crossplay between those two things because they're just not designing it. So it's definitely not a question of these companies don't want to work together with us on crossplay, or maybe that's a minor part of the equation, but it's more of a question of Bethesda just isn't bothering to try and design it for that.
Right. Yeah, I wonder. I just wonder what the problems are. Like, maybe it's like because the servers are going to hold like the entire game world, but it's only going to be for like a dozen people or something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just like too big of a game world to load over different systems. I don't know. Once again, I'm not a scientist, a lawyer,
or a game developer,
but I don't know how that works. But who knows why? Because especially, why every other company would want that, and then Bethesda's like, nope, not Fallout 76, no sir, sorry. Although with he does talk about how their other game, Elder Scrolls Legends, which is like the phone game, I think. Oh no, Elder Scrolls Legends.
That's the MMO.
Yeah, that's right. No, Elder Scrolls Legends is the cards game.
Oh,
because the other one's Tamriel Unlimited. Yeah, if they couldn't. God. They say that that one it's essentially non-negotiable, that it has to be cross-platform. So I don't know. It's Bethesda always has a weird ways of wording their opinions on why they're doing things. So maybe we'll figure out why someday it's not cross-platform. Or more likely than not, we won't.
Or we won't. We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Thanks, Bethesda.
Thanks, Pete. Tangentially to this story, I didn't put it into the lineup because it was really just too small of a nugget. It is that the beta date for Fallout 76 has been announced. It is October 23rd.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So if you want to get into a game that's going to be broken for a long time, that's when you can do it.
What a great way to sell it. Hey, you want to get into a broken game, kids?
Right. And this is the one thing that I think is funny is because, as we know, oftentimes quote-unquote betas are really just demos, advertising demos for the real game. This time, because the beta is on the 23rd of October, I think the game release is on the 23rd of November, or the end of November, somewhere in there. This time, I think this is probably a real beta, because I think that there's going to be a lot of problems, and they got to hash this shit out as best they can.
Yeah, because we see a lot of with the shooters, the Call of Duties and the Battlefields.
Call of Duties.
Those betas are really just demos to try and get people amped for the game that's going to come out. But yeah, no, this seems like it's actually a beta. Interesting. So let's talk now that let's stop talking about all these recent games and games that are about to come out. Let's talk about a game that's been out for 5 years.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Total War Rome 2.
Sure.
In an article from the 24th from PC Gamer, Total War Rome 2 is getting review bombed on Steam because of women generals. Fun. So, Acclaim, that Creative Assembly, makers of the game, has dramatically increased the percentage of female generals, has sparked the usual outrage. So, I came across this story earlier this week and I saw it, and it was just like, oh yeah, I guess we really haven't gotten anywhere since 2014 in Gamergate.
Nope.
Just pretty much the same kind of stuff happens. Maybe not to as extreme a degree, but the same kind of stuff.
Oh, what's that? The internet's still full of like a bunch of misogynistic pieces of crap that get really defensive over shit that they never experienced. I guess it is 2018.
Yeah. So let's. I'm going to read you some parts of the original story here. We've got Creative Assembly's historical strategy game, Total War Rome 2, came out in September 2013, and in the 5 years since, it's notched up more than 21,000 user reviews on Steam, adding up to a mostly positive overall rating. I mean, yeah, it's a good game. Yet, over the past couple of days, more than 660, man, they just couldn't get 6 more in there.
I know.
Reviews have rated it overwhelmingly negative. What could have so suddenly and dramatically reversed the fortunes of a 5-year-old strategy game that's still in the thick of the Steam Top 100, which is actually really impressive that it's still up there.
Those Total War games always do super well on Steam.
So, it's a review bombing, of course, and the reason, equally, of course, is women. Specifically, a claim that the recent free Ancestral update dramatically increased the likelihood of generals in the game being female. So, it's not clear what started the uproar. It's sort of clear what started the uproar, I would actually say.
It'd be the femoids.
There was a guy, and I don't remember. Let's see here. It's with Steam user Eric, just Eric.
Eric
posted a screenshot showing 5 out of the 8 available generals as women. And you're like, that's a very high percentage.
Yes.
So it was followed by a bunch of comments of people saying like,
on the historical accuracy, but what about the historical accuracy of my game?
Exactly.
That was a dramatic reinterpretation of how they sounded.
Thank you for doing that. That was really, it was perfect. It was better than I could have done.
I do my best.
So we got a statement from them. Let's see if there's anything else in the base article. There is actually a bunch of numbers in the base article that I kind of wanted to go through, but I also want to read their statement first.
Mm-hmm.
So, in regards to the current debate about Rome 2, there have been no changes to recruitable female general spawn rates, but with the addition of the family tree feature and the new gameplay options it brings, playable factions may gain more female family members via marriage. If a player has their male family members seek a wife and get married, more females enter the family. This means more female characters may appear as recruitable generals, but again, only in those factions where female characters may be recruited as generals. Female characters appear throughout the game, but have been a 10 to 15% chance of appearing as recruitable generals for some of the playable factions. The exceptions are the Greek states, Rome, Carthage, and some Eastern factions which have a 0% chance, and Kush, which has a 50% chance. Oh, that's so nice. They're 50-50 on that.
Good for Kush.
Yeah. This is to broadly represent the cultural differences in these factions during the time the game is set. These percentage chances are moddable by the players. We've not seen a verifiable bug where this is shown to be different or not working as intended. We have no plans to patch this out or remove this feature from the game. Okay, so a couple things about this statement. For one thing, there are many factions, including the one for which the game is named, where you have a 0% chance of getting a female general. Mm-hmm. And I have not seen the original screenshot that was posted where the guy showed 5 out of 8 generals being female, but I have to assume that none of those were or he was not part of the faction that gets that has 0%, because that would definitely be a bug. And again, the people who made Rome are just like, no, we haven't seen any evidence of any bugs going on.
Also, if there's a 0% chance and there's probably no art assets to support that,
Yeah,
So if it's like you can't get a female Roman general because we didn't make the costume, like we didn't make the character model.
yeah. Then you have these other factions. There is that one faction that's 50%. Okay. But then you
Hmm.
have all these other factions that are 10 to 15%. And what people need to understand about math, and I'm no scientist,
No, I'm
but
no mathematician.
yeah, is that if it's a 10 to 15% chance every time you can randomly get a general, that means that the chances of getting 5 out of 8 generals as female are extremely slim, but can happen
Hmm.
through the laws of percentages. And I think, what did it say here? This article actually breaks it down, which is fantastic. There was a Redditor AA Battery, or AAA Battery '03 explained. It's enough on its own to explain all the female generals. Screenshot shared by Chaos Puppy. Huh, that's funny. The probability to get 5 out of 8 generals to be female with a 10% spawn rate would be 8C5 by a power of point 0 or 0.15 by a power of point. I don't know. It's a bunch of math. I don't
Just
even.
remember PEMDAS. That's how you have to solve that.
Yeah, that means that equation that I didn't finish reading because I honestly just got lost halfway through it. That means that if 10,000 players were to boot up the game right now and spawn 8 generals from Egypt, you'd expect exactly 4 of them to get the outcome of 5 female, 3 male generals. So
4 out of 10,000.
yeah, so it can happen, but it's exceptionally rare. And it's funny because that actually plays into the fact that this is a 5-year-old game. It's
Yes.
taken until now for that to happen to someone.
Right. It's like winning the lottery or something.
But because it happened to someone, oh, there's a screen grab of it. But because it happened to someone, they're just like, well, this is horrible. And obviously they changed the code in the game for this to happen. No, just a random fluke that happened to you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the fact that it is this random nothing little fluke, and that has spawned 660 review bombs,
Yeah.
is just a testament to how stupid and childish people are on the internet.
But you ever doubted how stupid and childish people can be on the internet?
No, not since doing the show. I've not.
Yeah, Jesus. No, yeah, it's the underlying thing is that there's a lot of men out there that really hate women for no apparent reason, and they'll take any excuse they can to bitch about it, even if it is the historical accuracy of their computer video game, which I don't care if it is a historical game. It doesn't matter. It's a fucking video game with cinematic cameras, and it probably was nothing like this in Roman times.
Well,
So who gives a shit?
Well, the interesting thing about that argument, it's a stupid argument, but the interesting thing about it is that when people say, "Oh, well, there weren't any female generals in history, so why should there be any female generals in this game?" On the one hand, we actually don't know that for sure. With certain nations, there have been archaeological discoveries that denote, like, oh, this was a general's grave, and we just assumed it was male because the vast majority of generals were male. But then people have found, like, oh, actually, we've looked at these bones, and this was a lady. But certainly the notable generals throughout history have been men. I don't think there's much controversy around that statement.
No.
However, what the game designers are trying to tell you, what Creative Assembly is trying to tell you, is that, listen, guys, we're not trying to make it exactly like how it occurred in history in terms of the generals that were actually there. We're trying to make it as similar to the way history unfolded as possible, which means there was a very slim chance, unless you're from Kush,
Unless you're from Kush,
of having...
we're all high on that Kush.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, whoever, man, whatever, don't care.
Just mellow out, man.
Just mellow
Which means
out, dude.
according to historical data that they have crunched, if things hadn't played out the way that they did in history, there would have been that 10 to 15% chance that we would have seen some female generals showing up.
Because the alternative is they make a completely 100% accurate game in which only things that happen in history occur in the game. And at that point, you might as well not be playing a game. You might as well be watching a documentary about Roman military strategy.
Yeah, because if you choose one of the factions that's destroyed in history, you just lose. You can't win the game.
And that's a fun, like, that's honestly, I play a lot of like 4X games, like Civilization, and I dabble with some of the Total War stuff. And it's a fine line. It's like, do you want to play because there's always a mode in there in games like Civilization. It's like the American Revolution or the Civil War or, the Napoleonic Wars or World War II. And it's like, yeah, you can play those modes, but how satisfying is it if you only have to play it out the way that it ended, Like, wouldn't it be more fun to see what happened if America didn't win its independence, or the South won or something like that? That's the fun of it. So it's a fine line, really, to try to get that between historical accuracy and replayability where you can see other things happen. But yeah, forget all that. We just hate women, and and they shouldn't be generals. I think the big news here is that if you open up that screenshot of the 5 generals, you can see how 5-year-old this game really is by looking at all their eyes and how horrible those character models look. That's the real important thing.
Oh god, it's horrifying.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's funny too because the background, like the landscape, all looks still pretty good. But man, those character models.
Ugh. Terrible. The last thing I want to mention about this story is actually the annoyance that I have with Creative Assembly. Not because they modded their game so that it would be super feminist, because obviously that's not what happened here, but their response, I'm a little 50-50 on their response. Yeah. I'm a little cush on their response. They say, they make a firm stance. We did not change the game. I mean, there is this thing with family marriages, sure, but they explain that. And
they explain marriage to all the people out there.
Yes. And they also end by saying they have no plans to patch this out or remove this feature. They also, unequivocally state this is not a bug. We have not encountered anything like that. The game is running as intended. Cool. Mm-hmm. That's great. But the two things I have umbrage with, and one of them I sort of can't blame them for, but the other I totally will, is that the one I will blame them for is they say that, hey guys, if you don't like this, you can just mod it out.
Yeah.
So they're basically saying, hey, all you buttholes who are getting angry about women in video games, totally unjustifiably, don't worry. We built a feature into the game where you can just remove them if you want. Why don't you just use that?
Right.
And I almost wanted them in this statement. Actually, no, I didn't almost. I wanted them in the statement to say, yeah, there used to be a way to adjust like a slider so you wouldn't get any female generals, but we removed that ability just to say F you to the people who are getting angry about this because you're idiots and you're wrong.
Right, and they do mention in this article that there is a fan-made mod called the Patriarchy mod that removes this chances for this to happen, and it's like, I understand what you're saying. It's tough. It's tough for Creative Assembly, I imagine, because it's like someone walks into an office and they're like, so, that game we came out with 5 years ago? People have been getting pissed over a stupid thing, and then they're like, fucking whatever. Just like, I'm sure they care obviously enough to make a statement and explain these things to people, but in the back of their head, I'm just like, why? I'm sure they're thinking like, why do we have to deal with this? Like, this is such bullshit. Like, so
yeah. The other thing that I kind of am annoyed with them about, but at the same time I can't blame them, is their whole, first 2 paragraphs of their statement are calmly explaining why these people are wrong. Right. And I'm just like, that's not going to work. They're not going to listen to any of that. It's nice to have those facts and figures, but it's a complete waste of time to post them because the people that are already mad about them are just going to say that you're lying, but no, so this is something that the one thing I came away from Gamergate with, after talking about it on this show at length while it was happening and in the aftermath of it, is I think the reason why we still see this kind of toxicity, although we see it to a slightly lesser degree, but we still see quite a bit of it, is the unwillingness, and I think I've talked about this on the show, the unwillingness and the inability of game companies to thoroughly rebuke these people.
Yeah.
And to say, like, no, you're bad people for thinking this. Not only are you wrong, but you're bad people, and we disown you and we disavow you. And
Yeah.
when Gamergate happened, a lot of gaming magazines did that. And then, or
Yes.
not magazines, websites. Ha, magazines don't exist anymore.
Magazines.
Where's
What's
the
up,
Nintendo Power
electronics?
now,
Yeah,
idiot?
there's still. Yeah. What's up, Electronic Gaming Monthly?
But no, a lot of gaming publications came out with strong articles against this, and I was actually happy
Yeah.
about that. Even though obviously that enraged a lot of gamergaters, I still think it was the right move because that's how you have to have that battle, right? But a lot of the game companies just sat down and were like, we don't want to lose any customers,
Right.
so we're going to
Yeah.
be as diplomatic as possible about this. And yeah, and I think that's why we didn't really have the full. That we didn't see that split. The split never fully happened. The really toxic people never felt like they were not welcome in the game community and thus did not entirely leave. Many of them did, I
Right.
think, but many did not because they were not thoroughly rebuked.
Right. And I think you see that happen in all kinds of industries because you have these companies that are like, man, we really, if we don't want to like cause a stink and then lose a shit ton of customers, you saw this in segregation era America all the time, where it's like a lot of people really held beliefs that were anti-racist, but we're still gonna not take a stand yet, because it's not the right time or something. And yeah, it's unfortunate that happens. There are companies that do rebuke these kinds of people, but they're usually smaller. I remember a couple of years ago, the makers of 2064 Read Only Memories had a real notorious tweet where they're like, "We don't want Trump voters as customers. If you bought our game and you're a Trump voter, we'll happily give you a refund." And everyone's like, "You can't put the politics in my game. Well, my politics in my game," and it's just like, too bad, man. like, yeah. So I don't know. I think that I also believe that more companies should be outward about their politics, because art is politics, and politics is art. And but it's tough when you have big companies like Creative Assembly that are like, well, yeah, we don't know what to do. Public, opinion nightmare over here, type of thing. So yeah. But I do get what you're saying, and I agree that it would probably be better if like people came out straight up and said, like, we don't want your kind around at all. I think that, yeah, like if like Blizzard came out and said something like that, it would be great. But then, you also have to wonder how much of that kind of culture is already in the game companies when you have companies like Riot that obviously
Riot.
that obviously have a horrible culture at their upper ends, and then they're like, yeah, well, women, am I right, guys? And so it's a whole nest of vipers.
All right,
Bag of worms.
it's true. So let's close out this heavy topic. Just move on to something fun.
Just move on to something that's gender positive.
Close out our stories. Yeah, listen. Bowser is a transgender character now.
Yeah, I mean, if J.K. Rowling can do it, so can Nintendo.
So, I don't know if you guys heard about this earlier on, but there's a new character in Nintendo called Bowsette, and it's great. It's pretty good. So there's this great article from IGN. It would be better if it wasn't on IGN because IGN doesn't load for crap. But the article is still fantastic. Entitled, "Who the hell is Bowsette and why is the internet obsessed with her?" And the article goes to talk about how this is loading real bad.
Oh God!
Talk about how,
damn you, IGN!
Yeah, there was a crown that I guess, where did it show up? It showed up in like a Nintendo Direct or something.
It was a Nintendo Direct for one of the 2D Marios that is coming out for the 3DS, I think.
And Toad gets it and puts it on and becomes like a Toad version of Princess Peach, and it's called Toadette. And the fan community saw that, and then Nintendo was very vague about if anyone else put the crown on, and then the Nintendo community was just like, "Wait, are you telling me that there's a crown in Mario that if a character puts it on, they become like a Peach-ified version of that character?"
Yeah.
well, what could that mean for other people? And then we had some real fantastic comics and memes, and none
Yeah.
of them are loading on my computer right now. Nope,
Yeah, it's really too bad.
not a one. So I think, yeah, the links are still to the pictures are still here. Wow, I hate you, IGN.
It's
You're
because they gotta have one of their famous podcasts playing in the corner with 1080p video.
okay. Okay. Yikes. So there's this comic. It's Bowser and Mario both trying to offer flowers to Peach while she's in a wedding dress. She says no to both of them, and they both have a good cry as buds. And then Bowser just takes out the crown and looks at Mario, and Mario looks at him. And then the next panel is Peach and Luigi playing tennis. Mario Tennis Aces. And Mario walks by with Bowsette just having a good old laugh. And
Yes.
wow, making Peach real jelly over there. Peach jelly.
Peach Jello.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's so basically Bowsette's like goth Peach, right?
Yeah, kind of is. So it's Peach with, for those who can't see, it is Peach with like a black dress and horns. And obviously the crown, and like, what did she have anything else? I don't remember.
Spiked bangles, I think.
Yeah. So it's pretty fantastic. And then we had, I think they were talking about how Japanese Twitter decided to.
Yeah, Japan's been all about this shit.
Oh yeah, they jumped right on it. They decided to draw a lot of fan art. So yeah, we have fan art of that for people watching the stream. And yeah, it is. She just has spiked, but yeah, she's just goth Peach pretty much. With
pretty
horns. Pretty much just goth Peach. So,
but the internet has gone fucking crazy over this.
They
thing
love
for
it.
Some reason.
They love it so much.
They love it so much.
And I'm really hoping Nintendo will maybe that can be the next Smash Ultimate character.
Sure. Yeah, it's I'm interested to see what actually the crown in the game does now, and if they're going to change it because of the internet uproar. Although I don't think Nintendo knows what the internet is, but
that's not true.
They
have Nintendo Switch Online. They kind of know what the internet is.
They kind of know what it is. But this has spawned an entire brand of memes.
Who the hell is Bowsette?
Actually, several
and why?
different kinds of memes. One that I've seen a lot of is picture of person +, super crown equals, and then like a whatever gender bent version of that character they decided is, and seen a lot of good ones. It's been a good time. Had a good laugh or two.
There's a great someone made a fake amiibo for Bowsette, which is pretty fantastic.
Yep.
And I'm just, man, what a character! What a
character!
What a great character! So it's just a nice, fun little thing. That's all.
Sure.
Just wanted to talk about that, lift your spirits up a bit. I also
Amongst
like
all
that
the garbage.
Yeah, I also like that a second ago when I had to reload IGN, its podcast just started playing with full audio, and I was like, I always have these set to mute. Why is it doing that?
Can't stop IGN.
IGN just can't stop dropping the spaghetti every which way.
I know. It's all over the floor.
So, we're almost out of time here. Let's talk about games that just came out. Well, Dragon Ball FighterZ is out for Nintendo Switch right now. There was an update to that was announced that had fun little Halloween costumes and things that looked like a good time. FIFA 19 also came out for everything,
of course,
including the Xbox 360 and the PS3.
Yes,
fantastic. And then coming up, we have, let's see here, Batman: The Enemy Within.
Isn't that a Telltale game?
Maybe. Probably. Yeah, it definitely is. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
So they have more than 2 games coming out since they've been closed.
Yikes.
Now, I wonder if that's the money that they'll use to pay their employees.
Ooh, I hope so. So that's on October 2nd. We also have Forza Horizon 4 coming out.
Forza!
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about it, but it's certainly a big deal for racing fans. It's been getting really good early reviews as well.
They always get pretty good reviews. I mean,
yeah.
And that's why they always lead with them at their E3 conferences.
Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise for the PS4. Mega Man 11 coming out on the 2nd as well for Windows, Nintendo Switch, PS4, and Xbone. So if you're a Mega Man fan, you really got no excuse. You can pick up this game. Hopefully it'll be better than Mighty Number 9.
It's almost impossible that it would be worse.
Yeah.
That game was fucking trash.
And then on the 5th, we have Assassin's Creed Odyssey coming out for Windows, PS4, and Xbone. And Super Mario
Party. Sorry, but Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a historic game where you can play a woman for the entire game, should you want.
But we also have Super Mario Party coming out for the Switch on the 5th as well.
Super Mario Party? Is that just a new one, or is it?
Yeah, it's the new Mario Party game. It's the one where you can have multiple switches, and the screens will have that overlap weird feature where you can connect them.
That shit looked like magic when they showed it off. I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how that actually works, especially since I have a Switch and I know several people who have Switches, so hopefully one of us will buy Mario Party and then we can see how that works.
Yeah, that should look crazy.
But yeah, so that's some big titles coming out, pretty exciting. But we're pretty much out of time here. Hey, if you've been watching on stream, thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Hey, if you're listening to the recording of the podcast, thanks for listening. We appreciate both of those things quite a bit. This has been Don't Copy That Floppy, a video game news podcast, broadcasting live Fridays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week we broadcasted a little later because of scheduling stuff, but basically that's when we're usually going to be doing it. And if you want to check us out on social media, we post to our Facebook page and to our Twitter at DCTF Podcast. And we pretty much just post when we're going to go live, what's going on, and when new episodes are up, we post the iTunes links. So they're easy to find for you to check out. If you want to check out our show archive, you can go over to iTunes, check it out there, or you can go over to chipbit.net. You can check it out there as well. They are our amazing benefactor site where we are hosted. Or you can go over to our YouTube page where we have the Twitch streams get uploaded there. And let's see, if you want to support the show, great way to do that is to go over to the iTunes and leave a rating and review. Those are extremely helpful. And if you want to support the show and you got all sorts of money, you just don't know what to do with it, you can head on over to our Patreon and you can give us money every month. You can get access to sweet bonus content and that feel-good feeling of helping us do the things that we do. Or, because now we're on Twitch and we can accept bits, you can also give us bits.
Give us those bits!
Just throw those bits at us. Yeah. With that all being said, thank you again for listening or watching. And until next time, Chris, what do people have to remember?
Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, an engineer, a military scientist, or even a good person, but I want you to know that you shouldn't copy that floppy.